Countrywise,
where we travel the length and breadth of the great British countryside to unpack the latest rural stories.
You just never see that.
I know, it's so fantastic, isn't it, to see them up close.
We'll be joining the conservationists working to protect our wildlife and precious landscapes. There's a big dorsal fin of a shark. Awesome sight.
And we'll be looking at the ever-changing face of the British countryside. That's an incredible noise. I've never heard someone make a noise like that.
This week, I'm in Cumbria to meet a man who goes to extremes to get the perfect picture.
And we can climb as high as the clouds. You can see the whole Lake District from that altitude. It's amazing, fantastic. I can't describe it.
And I'm in Dorset, learning an ancient skill.
Got the beginnings of a new career, yeah.
and I'm off to the north coast of Wales to visit an island that's a home just for seabirds.
Look at this. Beautifulness.
Yeah, they're loveliness.
Beneath, look at that.
This is Dartmoor National Park. It's the largest and wildest area of open countryside in the south of England, and welcomes millions of visitors every year who come to explore its beautiful scenery. But this is dangerous terrain. With its unpredictable weather, this can be a very hostile place. And that's why I've come along today with Storm, the newest member of the Fogel household, to meet Dartmoor's search and rescue dog team to find out what it takes to become a lifesaver. It's 50 years since dogs were first used to rescue lost walkers in the UK. The idea came from the Swiss Alps, where dogs were used to find avalanche survivors. Ian Bertie has been a handler with the rescue team for 4 years. Lovely Dartmoor mist here.
Yes,
Hello, who's this?
This is Reggie.
How old is Reggie?
Reggie's 12 months old now.
Very nice. Well, this is Storm. Storm, do you actually want to come and say hello? Stormy is about 9 months old.
Come here, Reggie.
So how long does it actually take to train up a dog?
So typically you're looking at about 18 months to 2 years from puppy.
Okay.
Initially you'd start off with obedience training, and then you move into actually training them to hunt and find people.
But what are the dogs actually looking for then?
Right, so essentially what they're actually searching for is their toy. What our job is to do is to associate human scent with this toy. So essentially he'll just spend hours and hours searching for this. He's so driven for it.
Can I just show off first? Can I show you what Storm can do? Storm, look, sit. We got some basic commands.
Well, that's a good start, because one of the things we're going to do in a minute is a drop and command.
Okay.
So, for example, if a dog's running towards a road and there's a car coming down, the dog drops.
That's quite useful for everyday life.
Exactly, yes. I'll show you with Reg. Reggie, come. What's this? Come. Good boy. Okay, down. 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 Good boy. Okay, good boy.
So I've got some treats here. Storm, come. Down, sit. Down, down, down. Kind of worked, didn't it?
Yeah.
Did you want some as well? Ian and the rest of the search and rescue team do a weekly training exercise with the dogs.
Right, we've been tasked today to find a missing female walker.
Today, Paul Hudson's running the exercise.
Okay, any questions? Right,
Okay.
all set.
Right, so Andrew is going to be our dog's body for the day. Essentially, when we're training the dogs, we need people to hide from them, and that's what our dog's bodies do. And we have volunteers all over the country who give up their free time and go out and hide in all kinds of weather like this and wait to get pounced on by dogs.
What happens if we don't find them?
No, we will, don't worry.
Right, you're going to go off and hide.
Okay.
Good luck, we'll see you later. Hopefully. We think of mountains as being the environment where you might struggle, but I suppose it happens a lot here.
Oh, it does, particularly today's weather, beautiful Dartmoor mist. Those people that are not good with navigating, once you put them in an environment where the terrain isn't as steep, there's not so many prominent features as there are in mountains, it's much easier to get disorientated, and it happens very regularly.
With our dog's body officially missing, it's time for Ronnie to do her job.
What I'll do now is I'll release Ronnie. She'll go in, she'll start searching, she'll be sniffing around the air, sniffing the ground, looking for scent.
And once Ronnie does find our dog's body, how's she going to tell us about that?
Right, so initially she'll bark at the body, and then she'll return to me, and then she'll bark at me to let me know that she's found someone, and then she'll return to the body, and depending whether she can see us or not, she'll either keep sequencing until we're in sight, or she'll just stay at the body and continue barking.
Right, should we let her off?
Yep, let's do it. Ready, wait.
Ronnie will use her incredible sense of smell to follow the human scent of the dog's body, which she associates with her beloved toy.
Good girl, follow that.
Border Collies, Labradors and Spaniels make up most of the 60 rescue dogs working in Britain, and they perform several hundred rescues a year.
Oh, what does that mean? She's found.
She's found someone.
She has. Good girl, what you got, show me?
Aha, Andrea. Aha, there she is. Good.
Clever girl. Who's a clever girl?
Wow. Well done.
Take the toy, that's it.
Well done. So she gets her toy, that's her reward.
That's her reward for this, yeah. She's a nice play with a toy.
So how important are dogs like Ronnie?
Well, they're very important. I mean, a search dog like Ronnie can probably search as much land as maybe 20 or 30 foot team members split up into different teams. Their probability of discovery is up in the 95% range, whereas a foot team in this kind of terrain, you might be looking at 40, 45%. So what you're actually looking at is a really efficient search tool.
And it really does make the difference between life and death?
Absolutely, yes, it can do, yes.
After a day out on the moors in such challenging conditions, I feel nothing but admiration for the work these guys do. They really are man's best friend when you need them most.
Here in Britain, it seems we have a fascination for relics from the past, particularly in the countryside. In fact, preserving our heritage has become a pastime for many. What's happened is that what was once considered countryside clutter, stuff that was just left to rot in the fields, that countryside clutter has become countryside chic. And there's no better example of that than the humble shepherd's hut. Blacksmith Eddie Butterfield has been restoring and recreating these traditional huts from his Dorset workshop for over 20 years. You're the shepherd's hut doctor, really, aren't you?
Yes, I suppose I am. I like to rescue these and put them back to as they were when they were made.
Why?
Why? Because they've got so much history. Shepherd's hut was a shepherd's office of the sort of 1880s, you know. The farmstead would be a very basic affair. His sheep would be quite a long way away from the farm. So the shepherd, to do his work, he would need the shed on wheels to be able to transport it there with all his bits and pieces.
But it wasn't only his working shed, was it? This was his life.
Absolutely, yes. Particularly at lambing time, in the depths of winter, the shepherd would be out there looking after his ewes, and in there he would have a little stove and a little bed. So yes, it would be his house.
How many shepherd's huts have you renovated?
I don't know. Hundreds, probably. I would have thought. Hundreds, I would have thought so, yeah.
I'm guessing everyone is different.
All different.
Shepherd's huts are growing in popularity as alternative and quirky living spaces and can sell for up to £20,000. For Eddie, it's not just about saving them from rotting in the fields, but doing so with the tools and techniques used way back in the 19th century.
So first of all, what we need to do is bring it down to a taper.
Today at the Forge, we're making a simple hook, an original feature of a traditional shepherd's hut.
That's right, perfect. It's a little bit harder.
Especially getting round and round, isn't it?
Yeah, keep spinning it, go a bit more towards the point. That's it, whack it down. Tuck it round over. Got the beginnings of a new career here, Paul, I think.
Next, Eddie creates the authentic shepherd's crook curve on the end of the piece of iron.
That's the hook that we put the chain on at the front of the hut.
It's amazing.
And now we need to cut it off.
Yeah. Of course, there were no hacksaws in Victorian times, so we did it the traditional way.
And away you go. Right? Yeah. Nice bit firm. Over here, look. And that's how they were to cut it off.
It's so simple, but I understand how much skill and experience of yours and zero of mine has gone into making that.
Well, the taper bit was the most important part. You achieved that.
This place really is like a working museum. Eddie uses a Victorian steam-driven rack saw, which he restored himself to cut the planks of wood for his huts. With the help of his son Harry, we steam up the engine. This, my friend,
I got a feeling I know what you're going to say.
This is the craziest and possibly the most dangerous machine I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it's Victorian technology.
It is real Victorian technology.
Yes, it is, yeah.
What do we do? Come on, how we go?
Put your ear muffers on.
That's a good idea.
Well done. Can you stand over here, Paul? That one there. Big push towards me. Yeah, keep going. Pull that into the back. And then push that one forward. Pull it back. And that's it. Easy, isn't it?
And all that's left to do now is see the fruits of Eddie's labour. Oh, look at this. Can we go in?
Yeah, certainly.
Look at this. This is amazing. This is beyond my expectations.
Thank you very much.
It's a very peaceful place.
Yes.
I'm thinking about the old shepherds who used to be up on the downs. What do you think they would think of it all? If people have seen them as holiday homes.
I'm not sure they would necessarily relate to that one favourably. I wouldn't have thought.
I don't think they understand it
I
at
don't
all.
think they would. So we don't understand what their lives were like either.
Yes. Has this sort of moved on from being just a job for you?
This is my life. I got so in depth with it now over the years. It's almost an addiction for me now. I just like to make them as they were made 100 years ago. That's my quest, and I hope I'm nearly there with it. Not quite, but I think I've nearly got there.
Oh, cracky, you must be there, aren't you? Because this feels like perfection to me.
Thank you very much.
This is the unmistakably beautiful Lake District. More people come to this national park than any other in the UK. Its mix of craggy mountains and shimmering lakes attracts some 15 million visitors to this corner of Cumbria every year. Since the late 1700s, poets and painters have been flocking to the Lake District, hoping to capture the magic and essence of this extraordinary landscape. Today, millions come here armed with a camera, hoping to take the ultimate image. And now, it's my turn. Since he got his very first camera at the age of 11, Stuart Holmes has been roaming the Cumbrian fells, searching for the perfect picture. And today, he's my guide. I was going to say a beautiful day in the Lake District, but I suppose this is a beautiful day in the Lake District. A bit of cloud, a little bit of passing rain.
Yeah, better than blue skies, isn't it? Moody. It's very Lake District and it's rain. You got a beautiful waterfall there, Sawmill Gill. You got forest. It's got all the elements. It's brilliant.
So where are we going to go and take a photo?
I've got a good idea. It's just down the road.
Let's get going. In his quest to find a unique perspective of the mountains and valleys of the national park, Stuart has combined his two great loves, paragliding and photography. Stuart's been paragliding since the sport took off in the UK over 25 years ago. He finds the fells and valleys of the Lake District the perfect launch pad for him to reach for the skies. This bird's eye view has produced some breathtaking images. You have to be a proficient paraglider to control the flight and take pictures at the same time.
We can climb as high as the clouds, typically 4,500, 5,000 feet. You can see the whole of the Lake District from that altitude. It's amazing, fantastic. I can't describe it.
But even from terra firma, this place is crammed with stunning landscapes. So Stuart's going to give me a photography lesson in one of his favourite spots, beautiful Buttermere.
So why have we come to this specific spot?
We've got the fantastic mountains, the lovely lake. We've got a fantastic foreground in this tree, spindly little tree, a little delicate thing. How does it survive in this kind of wild and harsh location?
And so you want me to try and show the isolation of it?
Yeah, that would work.
Okay.
That would work, yeah.
Should we see what we can do?
Let's see what we can do.
Sunrise and sunset are the best times of day to capture landscapes. And it's always good to have something in the foreground to give the shot perspective.
I suppose over the years as well, photography has become even more inclusive. Obviously, you've got some lovely cameras here, but everyone has a camera in their smartphone.
Yes.
Suddenly the opportunities have opened up.
Yeah, it's not really about the tool that you use now, it's about being in the right place at the right time.
Okay, Stuart, do you want to give your critique? If you go back to the beginning.
Really not bad at all. Yeah, it's a little bit low, you can't see the lake.
Too low, yeah.
Yeah, that works well.
And if you come back in the autumn or the winter, there'll be a completely different framing because you won't have the grass here necessarily.
Prime time here really is autumn when the bracken and the trees change colour. You might have a bit of frost on the grass, mist rising off the water. The sun actually rises through that gap there at the same time of the year. Absolutely beautiful.
There are many different ways you can take in the stunning scenery of the Lake District. You can do it on foot, by car, by boat, or even from the air. But one thing's for certain, however you choose to do it, they're images that will stay with you forever.
North Wales is home to some of our most dramatic coastlines and a haven for all sorts of wildlife.
I'm on the island of Anglesey, but I'm heading across the water to Puffin Island, a unique and intensively protected environment. It is home to puffins, but also to all sorts of other seabirds like cormorants, guillemots and razorbills, who all descend upon the island every year to breed. Hi Steve, how's it going?
Steve Dodd has been monitoring bird life here for the RSPB for over 30 years.
There it is, bathed in light. How big is Puffin Island, Steve?
It's about a mile long, it's about 50 metres high.
What's the situation with puffin numbers on Puffin Island now then?
They've declined hugely over the last century. A couple of thousand pairs on there 100 years ago. Back in the early 1970s it had declined down to about 400 pairs and they were still going down. We had strong suspicion that they were being persecuted by rats. Rats got onto the island in the late 19th century from a shipwreck.
Am I right to think that we also contributed to their decline because we liked them as a tasty snack?
Back 100 or so years ago, yes, we would eat young puffins.
We'd pickle them, wouldn't we?
That's right.
Pickled puffin.
Yeah.
Don't think it's my cup of tea.
Thanks to an eradication program 5 years ago, there are no more rats on the island, which has allowed the bird populations to recover. It's breeding season, and here razorbills, guillemots, puffins, gulls and cormorants are nesting side by side on the steep cliff ledges.
Oh, there's one of them doing that classic wing drying pose.
That's right.
And it's because their feathers aren't 100% waterproof, is that right?
That's right.
Stunning birds. They're responsible for the designation that this island has, aren't they?
That's right. It's an SPA, Special Protection Area.
And why is it that Puffin Island is the second best nesting site for cormorants in the country?
So you've got the steep cliffs, but they also need sort of ledges at the top of the cliffs for them to put their nest.
Right.
And they can also cope with the various rocky outcrops on the steep slopes.
So, geologically speaking, it's pretty perfect for cormorant nests.
It is.
Puffin Island is privately owned by the Barron Hill Estate and it's kept exclusively for the birds. People aren't allowed to visit. It's been a huge success and this year there are an estimated 6,000 breeding pairs.
It's very clear that there are lots of different species, all just living wing to wing with each other. The most notable, I guess, are the guillemots, who do not mind being completely cramped onto a ledge together. They'll
Absolutely.
breed and nest successfully.
Their nest is nothing. They just lay the egg on the bare rock, and they'll be literally wing to wing, shoulder to shoulder.
I'm quite surprised at that nesting or lack thereof strategy, because they've got to be extra cautious that egg doesn't roll away,
That's
a
right.
gull doesn't get it,
Yep.
and yet they do
They're very
succeed
succeed.
with that.
So their egg is actually designed, so it's very, very pointed. So if it gets knocked, it won't roll sideways. It should just go round in a circle to reduce the risk of it falling off.
Wonders of evolution. It's
It
such
is,
a great thing,
absolutely.
isn't it?
In his role as RSPB seabird researcher, Steve has special permission to land on the island and ring some of its newest arrivals.
So tell me about the ringing work that you do on this island.
So I'm a licensed ringer with the British Trust for Ornithology, and we come out here for 3 trips during the summer. We ring a good number of the nestlings of all the species that we can reasonably get to.
Why is it important to continue ringing these birds?
Well, originally we wanted to know where they went to when they went on here. Well, we need to make sure the sites are protected. If you only worry about one part of their life cycle, you can't protect the species properly.
These birds return here each year to nest and breed, and soon they'll leave the island again to spend the winter at sea in warmer climes. Finally, Steve and I get as close as we can to some of the island's smallest inhabitants, the kittiwakes, nesting in the cove.
Look at this. So, what's the survival rate for the kittiwake eggs?
Generally pretty good, most of them they will get off, but we've been plagued the last couple of years by peregrines coming in and taking chicks from the nest.
How many eggs do kittiwakes lay?
1 or 2.
1 or 2.
About half of them will have 2.
It's beautiful nests.
Yeah, they're lovely nests.
Look at that. This is such a treat to get so close to them. The hundreds of tiny islands and rocky outposts around Britain are such a great haven for our breeding seabirds, and have never been more important as some populations do continue to dwindle. That's why it's vital to protect places like Puffin Island, so that in some parts of the planet at least, wildlife can recover in peace.
Next time, Ben is in Devon attempting a rather different method of training horses.
Now I'm going to stop you.
And I'm taking part in the National Trust's biggest wildlife survey.
Oh look at that, there's loads of stuff in here, it's great.
We've all new drama for you tomorrow night as Prey continues at 9. Then on Thursday, with so many classics to choose from, it's going to be tricky. We find out the nation's favourite Bond song. Next up, it's Death by Cheese as another one bites the dust in Midsummer Murders.